It is the end of August. Yikes. I mean, I don't even want to know how fast we got here. Like, it is somehow in the second half of 2024. Like, time has just been flying by way too fast. And yet, here we are. And now that we are here, somehow, I thought, let's try something different and let's try and do a wrap-up of every single comic book that I've read this month. And while we're at it, let's just rank them. At the heart of what I want this channel to be about is, at its core, I want it to be focused on reading actual comic books and talking about the comics themselves, not just the adaptations, although I will be doing that. I do also want to make sure that the focus is always on the reading, because that's why I'm here, that's what I love to do, and hopefully that's why you'll join me on this journey. So, without further ado, let's dive right in. So as you can see here, it does look a little light on what I've read overall, if you have a look at the bottom, but I want you to keep in mind that a lot of these are volumes. So you see Fantastic Four Volume 2, I've actually read both Volume 1 and Volume 2. Jessica Cruz, I chose the first volume, but I have actually read all 9 volumes or 57 issues, and if you want to check out my video on her, absolutely recommend. And then there's also Berserk Volume 2. A lot of these are multiple volumes or even some rereads like Rogue Sun, which once again I have also done a video on. And obviously with the manga, they're ongoing series, and so I'm not fully up to date with Dandadan, but the other two, Centuria and Kakurabachi, I am fully up to date. But some of them are new titles. Green Lantern Corps is a new one, Luke Cage and Static. Or actually no, Static is a second volume. But Luke Cage is also something that's relatively new in my books. So keep in mind that this is a wide range and this is a lot of reading because it's not individual issues, it's the overall volume. Okay, cool. Let's dive in. Alright, so starting things off, let's go with the manga. Let's start with some Dandadan. I personally really love Dandadan. I think there's a lot to enjoy. B or A? Nah, it's a tricky one. I'm go with, you know what, I'm going to be optimistic. I am by nature a hype guy, so I'm going to put it up there. Dandadan is incredible. I absolutely loved it. I think it's so much fun, and I think that's exactly what the story is trying to be. It's about kids pretty much getting up to shenanigans and having fun and getting away with things. And at its core, it's obviously also a romance and a love story. It feels so wholesome and so cute, but then at the same time, it's got so much action, it's got so much to its world building, and it's supernatural, and it's really doing a great effort of putting two kind of settings that couldn't be further apart from each other together so well. So absolutely props to that and to being able to balance that out so well. You get so much time with aliens, but you do spend an equal amount of time with the paranormal and the ghosts and the horror as well. And it is as light as it can be on the fan service. I'm not a fan of fan service. I genuinely do not like it, but I think that this is doing it respectfully in a kind of sort of equal setting. Like, everyone's getting like their fair share of clothes off, but at the same time I would rather just like less of that, like just none at all would be great. And it's not really there, it's not really a big part of the story, but it is still there, which is a bit of a nuisance, but hey, what you gonna do? Centuria, this one I have to actually lower it down a bit. I was thinking about having it up at A, but now Centuria is great because it sets itself in a very dark tone, very dark setting. So if you want to enjoy something like Berserk, then you can, but I just think that overall that it's kind of got this very heavy theme of the power of friendship vibes, and I'm just not about that right now. I think it's a bit too on the nose with that sense of its storytelling, and I think as it goes further down the track, there's probably going to be a lot more complications and nuance, or at least I hope there is, and I think that's going to really help bring it up. But overall, its dark setting, its grim nature is at its core like really well fleshed out, and its extremely gothic atmosphere is one that I absolutely am addicted to. I absolutely love it, but I have to give praise where praise is due, and that is Berserk, and that is going to go in front of Dandadan because it's so much better than Dandadan in every way. I absolutely love this series. The only reason I'm not putting it up just yet is because for the most part I'm not far enough along, but I can already sense that this story is going to end up being incredible. I just haven't read enough yet. I've only read the first 2 volumes, and we're still kind of halfway through an arc. We're literally at like the precipice of that story, but we're not quite far along yet for me to be able to really kind of say that, yeah, no, this is absolutely epic. I'm looking forward to reading more. I'm literally going to be buying the next 2 volumes. I'm going to be buying 2 volumes at a time because I absolutely love this story. I want to push through as much of it as I possibly can. Absolutely incredible. Loved it to bits. I think just for now, we'll leave it there and we'll see what happens. Going next with... Okay, yeah, so we just finished an arc with Kakurobachi, so that in itself is absolutely mind-blowing that we're so far along already. Like, somehow we're already almost at the 50 chapter mark, and it's just everything about it, man. Everything about the action, the detail of the panels and the action is absolutely out of this world. I've heard that the creator of Vagabond has actually gone on to praise the manga's artwork for this one in particular, and a lot of its action sequences as well. Something I'm really looking forward to when eventually down the track they do deliver an anime for this manga. I love the character work. Kuri, I really hope I pronounced his name right, has an absolutely incredible character arc in this. He goes from being the kind of klutzy, kind of downtrodden character that's just there for comic relief into his own fleshed out, powerful sorcerer. Like, to go from like one archetype to the opposite in such a short span of time, and to do so fluently while giving us enough depth as well, I think is just absolutely credit to the writing. And then you've got the villains as well, which also feel rather fleshed out, and the world building is so unique. The magic system is incredibly unique with this one, and I cannot wait to read more. I'm so excited. I think that we've just started on the next arc now. He's just about to start going up to finding the new sorcerers who have already got their contracts with the various swords, and then that's going to be its own. I'm really excited to see where all of this is going. I cannot wait. I love it. I think it is going to be the anchor that drives Shonen Jump forward for the next however many years that it goes on for. Next up, let's go over to Marvel and let's do Fantastic Four. This is the Brian Michael Bendis run in the Ultimate Universe, not the newest Ultimate Universe, the oldest Ultimate Universe, the one like the early 2000s where you have that 193 issue run of Ultimate Spider-Man. So this volume of Fantastic Four is written by the same person who did that run of Ultimate Spider-Man, and it's such a fresh take. It is an origin story. The first two volumes really sets itself up as the definitive origin story that takes you through how they got their powers under this setting, as well as how they got Doctor Doom and they go up against the Mole Man. So there's a lot of honoring of the original origin story in this, while also turning it into its own thing. And as somebody who doesn't really know a lot about the Fantastic Four, who doesn't really know a lot about the original comics, this was a really great introduction for me. This was a really great first step into that world. I can't wait. I want to read the whole run, and then I'm going to go back to the actual main timeline MCU to read some of the awesome runs that are there, because I know that they're there. I can feel it. I can sense it. And with the Fantastic Four movie on the way, I think now is the perfect time to get into this series. And they are incredible. They do really focus on Reed Richards and Sue's relationship a lot more. The Human Torch, Johnny, and the Thing, Ben Grimm, those two become more sidelined in their own way. They're there, they're relevant, but they're very much in their own kind of supportive role to Reed Richards and Sue. And I think overall as well, I think it's done a really great job with exploring how their powers work. It really brings it down to a scientific level. They are using their intelligence first and their powers as a supportive measure to that. It is their intelligence that drives their decisions in all of this. And I absolutely think that that is props to the writing. Like, it would be so weird to read a story now where they don't focus on that aspect of their character, where they don't focus on the fact that these are all essentially geniuses minus Ben Grimm, and because of that, they're able to just outwit their opponents in so many ways. It is, and for me, is the most compelling feature of this story. I absolutely think it's incredible, and if you haven't read it, read it. Of course, it's Brian Michael Bendis anyway. I think we all love him, unless he's done something wrong, which I don't know, but if he hasn't, thank God, because this is great. We will go with Rogue Sun. For me, is one of those stories which has this really fresh spin on the genre of superheroes. You've got a bully who is a fully fledged stereotypical bully with daddy issues, and he becomes a superhero and he learns the error of his ways and how not to be a bully. But it does so by focusing on the trauma and the conflict in his life, and the conflict that other people have towards him as well, including other family members. And his dad is not exactly the nicest and easiest person. Like, they don't really ever try to redeem his actions. They do explain it, and they do justify it, but they never rationalize it to a point where you absolutely agree with and forgive him for being the kind of abandoned father figure that he is. And he is a very predominant factor in the main character's life. It is incredibly well fleshed out relationships, but the world building, the actions, the plot in itself when he goes up against certain villains, that to me leads a little less desirable. It does feel a little bit generic, does feel a little bit like predictable in some ways. Like, it doesn't feel like it's a story that I haven't seen before, but at the same time it's kind of a weird feeling to be in. But overall, I do think it's a solid read. I do think it's really good. I just think there is a lot more that it could be, and there's still a lot more to go. It's an ongoing series. I'm predicting about 5 volumes, 3 of which is already out, and those 3 do an incredible job of developing the main character, Dylan's arc in that 3 volumes as well. It just needs a little bit more before I can really put it up to that A tier category. All right, going up next, DC. We haven't actually touched many DC, but don't you worry. Don't you worry. They're there. They are there. But we're going to stick with Marvel just for now, and I'm going to go with Luke Cage. This was actually a new one for me, because Luke Cage has always been a character that I've been interested in. He's always been this sort of, like, I really enjoy his backstory. I really enjoy the kind of character that he is, but it didn't really grip me as much as I had hoped. I think, once again, the story just felt kind of flat. It was that experimented on Luke towards the end, and then we got to see that kind of relationship Luke had towards the person that kind of turned him into a superhero, and how Luke kind of resents him a little bit for that, but at the same time can't. And the scientist, who's just an egotistical madman who's continuing to do his experiments on other people, which is ruining their lives, and Luke has to try and stop him but doesn't, and it gets complicated. And yeah, it does a really great job, and obviously you get a lot of Luke's inner monologue, which really helps with kind of seeing his perspective on everything. But I think overall, once again, it just, I don't know, it felt a little flat. It's in terms of scope of the story, it's on the same level of scope as something like Netflix's version of Luke Cage. So, like, obviously the show did a great job of adapting his kind of storyline. I just think there could have been more in there. I feel like it could have gone slightly larger, slightly bigger, and I think just, sticking with just Luke going up against his old creator in a sense didn't really do a lot more, given there could have been a lot more focus on other characters and on other aspects to what was happening at the time. And I just think overall it just, I don't know, it could have been better, and it didn't feel that for me. Static Shock. This one is tricky. I'm actually going to push it up to here. It is almost up to there. It really, really is for me. But Static, just once again, I felt like the writing was a little bit too on the nose. I felt like it was a bit too much tell rather than showing, and I feel like the dialogue and the exchange between it all was just a bit too kind of, I don't know. It was definitely a story that was targeted towards a younger audience. It's one that wanted to focus more on the younger Gen Z sort of generation, as Virgil, the main character, or Static, he is essentially almost exactly a Gen Z generation kid. He's out there protesting, he's out there trying to make the world a better place, and I absolutely love the fact that it is Virgil who is trying to change the world, and then Static is kind of there, more kind of in the background. Like, you see plenty of time with him being in his superhero persona, but like, you see so much time of him as Virgil, as himself, and he's trying to make the world a better place as himself, which is something I absolutely love about it, which is why I want to put it into that A tier category, but just not quite yet, And then we've got Green Lantern Corps. Well, look, I'm straight up, I'm honest with you, I am just completely biased. Green Lantern Corps is for me an absolute biased love, because I love Green Lantern. Green Lantern is my superhero world. I absolutely love it. I think Green Lantern is probably my favorite. I actually think I can say this, that Green Lantern is my favorite storyline, world building, IP, you name it. Like, I don't think there is anything else I love as much as I do Green Lantern. I think the world building, the powers, the characters, it's all so fantastic to explore, and it's so easy to enjoy, and there is so much of it to get into. Almost every single time I pick up a Green Lantern book, there is at least a 9-volume run of like that series that is going on, and right now I actually have in my back pocket the entire collection, the hardcover collection of the Blackest Night event, which includes everything, all of the tie-ins, all of the spin-offs, all of that is in there. And so what I'm actually doing is I'm rereading a lot of the Green Lantern I've already read, plus I'm going to be going through the Green Lantern core run, which is happening at the same time, all of which will lead up into the Blackest Night. And then I'm going to read the Blackest Night, which I have sitting there. It is incredible. It's a big flipping book. It's going to be my whole month. It's going to be devoted to just that book, and I cannot wait to get into it. But obviously I want to read everything that leads up to it, so I get a really good fleshed out sense of that event, and then I get to talk about it, which I cannot wait. But now we have my favorite 2 comics of the month. I absolutely love it. Starting up, we have Nightwing. This is the Tom Taylor run. I will be doing a video focusing purely on Tom Taylor's Nightwing, because it's near perfect in terms of how it delivers Nightwing as a character. It shows you the relationships in his life. It puts him at a standalone point. It really shines to this character in a big way, and I think there's going to be a lot coming up for Nightwing. I think the love for Nightwing is really going to explode after this run, if it hasn't already. There is so much to enjoy with this character. Yes, I'm fully aware of the spoiler about Batman taking on the mantle of Nightwing as well. I'm not yet there, because like I said, I buy in volume, so I'm not that volume I believe is going to be coming out in September. So when that hits, I'm going to be reading that, and then I'm going to be doing a whole video essay on the whole thing. I absolutely love Nightwing. I think he's an absolutely incredible character, and for one that doesn't have a lot of supernatural or fantasy elements to him, he's just an acrobat that does what he does, and he's incredible with it. I think, he really is the heart and the soul to a lot of what DC brings, and this run really shows that. It sets up his own world in Bloodhaven. It can be as an introduction to his character. You don't need to know anything beforehand. You don't need to read anything beforehand. It's all there. It's all given to you, and it does an amazing job of fleshing out his character, and the villains are really fantastic. I love the villains in this, Heartless in particular, and then seeing his backstory as well. Oh my god, that dude is a menace. That I absolutely think it's an incredibly fleshed out world. I really love the detail. I love how we're getting that relationship between him and Barbara. I love Bitewing. I love how he's got his own 5th dimensional imp. I love the fact that he's called upon so many of his supporting cast as well. We've seen so much of the Titans, and I'm so excited to get into Tom Taylor's run of the Titans. And I also love the fact that we have so much more to explore with his character. I think it's heading towards the end from what I understand, but we're not quite there yet, and I absolutely love it. The only reason it's not S tier, the only reason is because I haven't read the last run yet, and when I read the last run, I'm cutting myself off. I'm interrupting this. I'm changing it because there's so little to dislike. I think I'm gonna put it up there. I think it is. I think it deserves to be up there. I think it, even though I haven't finished it yet, knowing how much love I have for it right now, and knowing where it is going to head to, because like I said, I've had it spoiled for me. I'm on the internet. I've had it spoiled for me, and then of course, we have the piece that is a big reason why this is so light is because I couldn't stop reading Green Lantern Jessica Cruz. She is undoubtedly one of my favorite, if not my favorite, Green Lantern out of everyone. She is incredibly fun read. She is a small fish in a big pond, and that shows. She feels that as a character. She wrestles with her anxiety. She wrestles with her agoraphobia, and she just absolutely grows as a character from somebody who is trapped in her apartment due to her mental health and due to her PTSD, and she grows into being a phenomenally well-written, well-told Green Lantern that deals a lot with her own issues. And Simon Baz is also a really good job as well, but my biggest problem with that is that his main arc in this is letting go of the gun that he keeps on his side in favor of a Green Lantern ring that doesn't work for him, and then by the end of it they bring it back. Like, they could just do a complete 180 on like what is his main arc, and then they just put him back to like this original status quo position, and I absolutely hate it. He was somebody that didn't have as big of an interest as Jessica. Jessica really stood out as being a much bigger, much more relatable character that everyone was drawn to, and so her love and the support for her character has really grown. But for Simon, he's kind of been pushed in the background. But other than Simon, it's near perfection. I absolutely love it, and yes, I've done my own video essay on it, and yes, I think you definitely need to get on the Jessica Cruz hype train if you haven't already. There we go. So as you can see, this is it. So overall, I'm kind of happy with everything, with where it sits. I think there isn't really anything I would change. There isn't anything I would want to do. A lot of this is ongoing, so I am going to be continuing with a lot of these series, but I am going to be hopefully picking up 1 or 2 new ones as well along the way. I do want to make sure that I'm always reading something new every month as well, so there is always going to be a lot of the ongoing series that I've done, but then a lot more of the newer stuff as well. So hopefully there will actually be a month where pretty much everything is like new stuff. But we'll see what happens. Everything takes a bit of time. But otherwise, guys, take care of yourselves, live a happy life, and be true to who you are. Yeah, I like that one. Okay, peace.